All right, so for segment 4, the final segment of this format, and then we'll go into segment 5. We'll just hang out, chill, and talk. Is systems for specific genres. So I'm going to start with Nerdy Ogre in this one. What systems do you recommend for specific genres, such as horror, science fiction, fantasy, cyberpunk, dieselpunk, post-apocalyptic, whatever? And I have a rule for you.
I can't bring up
nothing Palladium.
Well, that's kind of hard because Palladium covers everything.
Well, that is true. Now, to be fair, every single thing that I said can be covered by a Palladium game, or actually sometimes more than one Palladium game of sorts. Yeah.
No, but
So horror. What I mean, everybody knows a horror. At least one.
Well, and you might be surprised at this, but I would say Savage World. It's a good game, and like Palladium, it does cover a lot of different genres.
Okay, so specifically, since we're talking about horror, how does Savage Worlds handle the horror elements? What does it do within its system that handles the horror elements? For example, I'll mention 2 games right now. Call of Cthulhu has the insanity mechanic. So as things happen, your character goes more and more insane because you're starting to realize that there's a bigger universe out there that we're not meant to know about. Let's use something a little more, I call that strategic level. Let's go something more tactical level. The game I'm covering right now, Alien RPG, has the stress mechanic, where it's literally a mechanic built into the game that causes your character to stress out and panic. So what does Savage Worlds do that has that? Because I know Savage Worlds has its own settings. I'm sure it has a horror setting as well, and it knows how to incorporate things like that. But what does it do to incorporate the horror feel?
Oh, geez. I mean, honestly, it's been a long time. But yeah, no. Well, I was going to bring up Call of Cthulhu, on horror. But have because it, like you said, it does have that insanity mechanics, and I don't know if it was like a house rule or if it's actually part of it, but the Savage World game that I played, it did have a similar element to it. As far as like specifics, I think it was which Star Wars was the D6 system. I don't know all the different. I know the D20.
Yeah, Western Games D6. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like that one because it had the exploding die, and you can't using your force.
Oh, you played 2nd edition with the wild die.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it incorporated the ability. Whenever you use the force ability, that had the chance of going. Using the force to throw something at somebody. They could swat it away. If you rolled low, they could just swat away, and it was like nothing. Or, it throws them out the window. And so, that's one thing that I enjoyed about that with the Star Wars, on the specific level.
Okay.
So yeah, and going back to generic, when one thing that I would look for is, okay, if we're doing a sci-fi, how does this game, incorporate the sci-fi feel? We're doing a horror. How does this game? So going to Call of Cthulhu, it has the insanity. Palladium has the horror factor. D&D, it doesn't have either of those, so it's not a good horror game. I wouldn't run it as such.
Okay, but since we're talking about recommending systems for specific genres, could you recommend D&D to be used as a horror game? I mean, it has Ravenloft.
I mean, not really.
Okay.
I really wouldn't recommend it. And as I said earlier in one of the other ones, I did try to use incorporate incorporate the Death House from Curse of Strahd into my Chaos Earth because it was a good fit. But D&D, there's no mechanic, there's nothing in there to incorporate a horror feel to it. So you're just playing D&D with scary monsters. D&D already has scary monsters. You
You need to sit in my Ravenloft game. We'll see.
Pull out a trash and watch the players mess their pants.
So what about for a sci-fi game? I mean, you mentioned Star Wars. Some people will say that's not sci-fi, but I mean, what else would be good, or a cyberpunk, diesel punk type game?
Well, cyberpunk would be cyberpunk. Sorry, it's the one cyberpunk style. It's weird talking about the cyberpunk genre with the cyberpunk game.
Well, there's a reason for that, but I mean, you've mentioned cyberpunk a couple of times today, but you haven't told us why. Give us the why.
Because it once again it goes back to the field. There's the mechanics of it. You were destined, or our party was destitute. We had no money. We had absolutely nothing except for what we had on our back, and that's how the rules were set up. So we had to go out and do stuff, and we find ways to make money or boost our reputation so that people would hear of us and hire us for jobs. And every time I talk to somebody about cyberpunk, that's like one of the first things they mention. Yeah, you start out poor, you start out nothing, you have to earn what you get. And most any other games, there's like, it's like, okay, here's all your stuff, go out and adventure. Why? I got all the stuff. Why do I need to go out and adventure? You started me off with all this money. You take motivation.
So cyberpunk, I think, has better than Shadowrun. Now, mind you, my experience with Shadowrun is first and second edition, and I've read through third edition. So if fourth, fifth, or sixth edition have changed this, well, that's too bad. I'm talking early editions. Is that it handled netrunners way better than deckers. The way it made sure that the netrunner essentially played along with the group. You didn't get too far ahead, or you didn't have to have like 9-hour session just with the decker. Now you could have done the same thing in Shadowrun as well, especially if you'd played Cyberpunk first, but Shadowrun didn't incorporate it as directly. So I mean, that to me, that's one of the advantages of Cyberpunk right there, is it definitely helped I felt that the Netrunner was better. And then you also have Shadowrun had magic. So some people don't believe that magic belongs in a cyberpunk setting. I like both games. I would not run Cyberrun with Cyberrun. Wow. I would not run Cyberpunk with magic or Shadowrun without magic, because I think they're the defining factors of the game. I like both of them. Shadowrun, I love dice pools, so I'm gonna, I absolutely, I don't care if I have 900 dice that I'm rolling. I love it. I want clickety clack math rocks, and I want to keep using them. At the same time, I love Shadowrun's Cyberpunk's hit locations. Like they both have a different feel. They both do something a little differently. So I think they both make great cyberpunk style games, for lack of a better term. And I know there are more out there, but those are the two that I've been exposed to. I like. Mutant Chronicles, the 2D20 version. Not a huge fan of Momentum, but I love the 2D20 version for Mutant Chronicles because it really, to me, adds that diesel punk fuel. I know some people think it works for Star Wars adventures, Star Trek adventures as well. I don't think that forward momentum concept works as well for something that's supposed to be a more ponderous thinking game. But for the Conan and for Mutant Chronicles, I absolutely think it's a fantastic system for that. So those are a couple right there. Obviously, for science fiction, you know what? I'm going to throw a different one out there. I'm going to go Stars Without Number for folks. I think Stars Without Number is superior to Traveler. It's better written. Might not have all the in-depth books, but it's a simpler, or generally a simpler system. It's ready to go out of the box, so to speak. I think that people should look more into Stars Without Number for their it can be hard, their hardest sci-fi game. But I just realized I didn't let Baron speak. So Baron.
Hi!
So what systems do you recommend for specific genres?
So if you're looking at it like a steampunk, What I would say would be something like Victoriana. That is a very heavy steampunk. You get that it's set in the 1889-ish, 1880s, very Victorian type feel to it. Also, another one would be and this kind of goes with that a little bit. If you're looking for like a kind of a sci-fi space, 1889.
Mm-hmm.
So, in just because it's kind of an alternate history slash being able to, it does have some steampunk feel to it, but it's also got that sci-fi feel because you're going to other worlds. So, but if you're looking for other sci-fi, Traveler, first edition.
When you say first, are you talking mongoose first edition or real first edition?
Real first edition.
Oh, you're the man. You can come back every week, sir.
I mean, Mark Miller did a great job with that. So, but I'm sorry. Where else can you roll up a character that can die before you even finish rolling him up?
To be fair, it's hard to do, but it can happen. Yes.
We had somebody, it happened 3 times to them with their in a row. It was hilarious. Now, if you're looking for fantasy, I'm going to kind of go a little off here. I know it's been mentioned here before, but I'm going to say it. Index card RPG.
Mm-hmm. Somebody was mentioning in chat earlier. Actually, yeah. Luther Pendragon was mentioning in chat.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is with Index Card RPG, you can also do your horror with that also. And it's a very, very simple system, but it works for so many things. You can do post-apocalyptic. You can do, you can go to my channel and watch.
Generic rules light game, though. I mean,
exactly.
So that people know what we're talking about here. It's a generic rules light game. It's a good one, but it's a generic rules light game that can be ported into any genre.
Exactly. I mean, we had Jade with us that ran a Final Fantasy game with it, and it worked beautifully. Then you're also, but for the fantasy side, it keeps stuff very easy, very, it's not super crunchy. And especially one of the biggest things that you always hear about fantasy games is, well, it takes 3 hours to run a fight. In that system, you can literally do a fight in 20 minutes, a full-blown fight. So it's very easy. Boom, done. For also for like horror, which is kind of quasi horror, but looking at Suede,
mm-hmm.
Savage, and there's was a setting that was put out by the actual author with the help of a company called Monster Hunter International.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Where you're actually going out and hunting the monsters, and there's a table where you get paid based on the monster and stuff like that. So but it is a horror because you're going after these monsters, vampires, Shoggoths, werewolves, anything you can think of. You can roll
so
it.
How does it handle the monster? I mean, obviously with that in its name, how does it handle that? What's the feature of that game that has that? How does it stand out with that feature? This is what I'm trying to ask.
The thing is that the way that it stands out with that feature is that it actually will give you the opportunity to be able to go on a hunt. So you're playing a hunter. So you're going after the big bads. You're going after things that there's a zombie outbreak somewhere, and you go in to help clean it up. It's very much.
I mean, okay, that sounds adventure oriented, but is there a mechanic in the game that really lends to that?
it really is more about the hunt and then the payment afterwards. So
Okay.
it literally is more of a risk reward type game. And that is one thing that I really like about it, because a lot of people are like, well, I like playing games, but where's the risk reward in it? Well, you've got a company that you're supporting. You've got teams everywhere. You're part of a team that's over this area. So I mean, you can really dial it down to an area that you really want to do things in. Um, let's see. Uh, the with the horror, of course, we've talked about the Call of Cthulhu. You looking at the in-depth card RPG. Even I know you said don't mention it, but Beyond the Supernatural, for the Palladium
No,
side,
I just wanted
you told
I wanted
you
Nerdy
told
Ogre
him
to have I wanted Nerdy Ogre to have something more than just Palladium, but
I'll bring it up. I got you, Nerdy. I got you, bud. But you're looking at things along those lines where a lot of it breaks down to what your table's looking for. Also, are they looking for, and you kind of look for the games that they kind of would like. Do they want crunch, or do they want something more where they're looking at more angel demon type things? Maybe look at an older game like Cult. uh
in
you
Nomine.
know yeah, Inomine is another good one.
No, it's not. It's a bad game, but
But
good
yeah,
idea.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You kind of look at what they are looking for and kind of go with it. If you're looking for something, maybe they want to do a like a Percy Jackson or something like that. You look at Scion, uh, because that actually works for that. Where and you can do different pantheons also very
Okay.
easily because it's all there.
All right. I'm gonna make my final commentary just a little easier on this one. The games I recommend for specific genres: high fantasy, Earth Dawn; low fantasy, D&D or Forbidden Lands. I don't know. And they're not the only ones out there. I could look at Worlds Without Number. I could look at a whole bunch of others that, what about Basic Fantasy? I saw that one in chat a lot. Well, that's D&D. Hyperborea is my go-to choice for my OSR style game. I love it. There are plenty out there for you to choose from, but I want to shout out Forbidden Lands and I guess what was my D&D, or Earth Dawn for high fantasy though. For science fiction, really, again, it goes for tone because I'm an IP purist. Yeah, you can do anything you want out of Hero System. You can do anything you want out of Traveler to somebody, even though that tends to be more hard sci-fi. It's got psychics or whatever in there as well. So it really depends on what you're going for with regard to that. But I think that people should check out Stars Without Number. But I also love Coriolis if you like that feel. Now, I have it, but I haven't read through the new one yet. I'm going to wait till the actual books are released and then take a look at what they've done with it. But if you want the feel of Alien, the Alien RPG is absolutely amazing for capturing the first two movies. It just is. Like that stress mechanic is just spot on. It works really well. Obviously Star Wars. I'm a big fan of Star Wars D6. I haven't tried the Fantasy Flight one. I've got a lot of friends who, if they don't like specialty dice, they don't like the game. If they do like specialty dice, they think it's great. So, I don't have any issues with specialty dice. I'm one of those weirdos that as long as I can read them and understand them, I don't have a problem with specialty dice. Other people, your mileage may vary. Check out Chill and Cults. I think Cult was mentioned a little bit ago for some horror games. Check into those. There are a lot of games out there. You'll find the one that's right for you, depending on what it is you're specifically looking for. But we're going to move to the last question now. But I'm going to segue with a comment. So, how does the choice of system influence the tone and style of a campaign? And we've talked about me being an IP purist and so forth. Well, one of the things you can do if you want to make your Ravenloft game more stressful, You just add it into the game. You can add in a fear mechanic, a stress mechanic. What I did is and I didn't do this every time I ran it, but one of the things that I did was I changed saving throws. I made saving throws harder to keep people away from those, those encounters. They started finding out that fights, especially when it came to magic and darkness and necromancy, didn't turn in their favor a lot, because the realm was creepier. Of course, I did the whole, because it's in the book, I did the whole, paladins are beacons of light. They, the clerics could only cast spells. I see so many people that got rid of this stuff. Oh, I don't limit my clerics because that's not fair to the player. Excuse me, the players are in Ravenloft. Like, paladins and clerics are supposed to lose that nonsense, okay? That's part of the fear factor that builds into it. By getting rid of that, you, like, Nerdy Ogre said, you're just playing D&D. There are things you can do. You can actually add. Now, it's not being a purist if you do this. I get it. If you want to take, like, no, I just want to play the system as is, no ifs, ands, or buts, changes to it, I get it. But you can add your own insanity mechanic to D&D. Nothing says you can't do that. Is it the right way to do it? That's up to you. I would still say you should probably play Call of Cthulhu if that's what you want, but you could add something like that to D&D. So, starting with Nerdy Ogre, how does the choice of system influence the tone and style of a campaign?
If the system has the mechanics for, like, you want to run a horror, well, does it have like a horror factor or insanity? That's going to that's going to affect it. Otherwise you're just getting a watered down version of whatever.
What else could you add? And I'll give you a hint. Palladium has it. Well, insanity in Palladium is handled different than insanity in Call of Cthulhu.
Saying the insanity and horror factor, because it's like because horror factor, if you fail that horror factor save, you're going you like instantly lose initiative. You're going last.
Yeah, isn't that just for one round though?
Yeah, it's for one round, but if you have a character, you can do 8 actions in one round, but you lose that horror factor. You get one action after everybody else. You're sitting there, horrified. So all those actions, those 8 actions, gone.
I get it.
And you get minuses. You get minuses to any defense. So if you're attacked, you're swatting at flies. So there are actual it's an actual game mechanic that affects how you play, how you interact with the with the world.
Okay. I can see that, I would like horror factor to be something a little different. I didn't take it out of my games, but I just kind of rolled my eyes at it. I would like it to be more like the panic from Freely games, where the horror factor causes you to do something where you could sit catatonic, you could run away in fear, you could just start shooting everybody because you don't care, it's gross and you don't want it near you, so don't be in front of me. You're like Hudson, oh, you want some? You want some? You want some? There are a lot of different things that could happen there. I don't know, I've always kind of found that horror factor was a great idea that may have been possibly implemented a little better, but I don't hate it. I think it's a great idea and I'm glad it's there. But so Baron, the same question for you. How does choice of system influence the tone and style of a campaign? But I'm gonna be more direct with you. How would using the storyteller system from Mage, Vampire, Exalted, and so forth change your game? If you were to run a fantasy game, you're going to take your 3.5 game and you're going to now run it in the storyteller system. How does the tone and style of the game change?
It becomes more fun.
Well, but you have to explain the whys. Come on now.
Okay, so with that, you're looking at anytime you do something. My question I have for clarification wise, are we looking at just the system, or are we also looking at the setting along with it?
That's up to you.
Okay.
I mean, the question is system itself, because again, system influences setting, and I think that personally, that by changing the system, you change the setting to some degree. But however you want to take it in this one.
So I'm going. If you're looking at that, if you're doing like a mage game, you're going to have the very the worry of the technocracy. You're going to have that, and you're going to want to instill that in the back of your player's mind that the technocracy is always out there. You don't know where they're going to be coming from. They could be watching you right now, and you just don't know. Which kind of you don't necessarily have to add a mechanic into it, but you can actually just give them the overall doom and gloom type thing. Whereas, if you're running like a steampunk type game, and whereas you are looking at more of the, a Victorian era, you want to get it across, that, as you walk down the streets and there's filth everywhere, and there's all kinds of pollution and things along those lines up, and everything around that. A lot of it is setting your stage, and by setting your stage, because it's just sitting there and going through and making sure that the setting, and not necessarily the mechanics, but with the setting, that they have it in their brain that, okay, this is kind of the picture that you have of this world, and that's more the tone I tend to set. Whereas,
so is there a mechanic in any one of the specific storyteller games that you think would port over to a fantasy setting? Like, we're specifically saying taking your D&D 3.5 or Pathfinder game and moving it over here, that would work well. Just throwing something out there, you don't have to piggyback on this one, but like, would the magic system of Mage work well for that?
Well, one thing that would Mage would work well. I think actually Exalted would actually probably work a little bit better.
Okay.
The only thing is you cut the dots down a little bit, and whatnot, and what or you don't give them the additional dots at the end. But the one thing that I think would be very impactful with it is, especially when you're looking at the damage, because every time you lose a box in the storyteller system, you take minuses
Right
to everything.
Yep. In fact, to be clear, I use that in my Earthdawn games. I use that system because Earthdawn has a wound system. Well, wounds just -1 from your abilities, and if you have a lot of abilities, you could have like 30 wounds. I'm like, no, I don't believe in that. I actually took it from the storyteller system, where if you took, was it 5 wounds? I think I went higher than 5, but basically, if you had 5 wounds, you were incapacitated. But it all came from that storyteller system. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that especially with the wound system. Now, a lot of people, yell down and myself, I don't prefer it, but a lot of people, and I've seen some talk about 4E in there. But one thing that I actually liked about 4E is what happened when you got bloody, because when you got to about half health,
Okay.
certain pluses kicked in, but you also had certain minuses kick in also,
Okay.
which truthfully, if you look at the overall with a fantasy type system, not many fantasy systems plug in that mechanic.
Yeah, not well enough. I get Freely does, but let's backtrack this just a moment, because we don't want to dive too deeply into the weeds in this one. So everything that you're saying there, how does that change the style and tone? Like in I don't want to say elevator pitch, talk about what you want to talk about, but how would your if you explain your Pathfinder game and then now you explain it in the context of running the same effective characters, the same effective world, the same effective everything, but now we're doing it in the I was gonna say White Wolf storyteller system, what would change? What would necessarily change, and how would it feel different? How would the tone be different?
Well, one thing is that you're going to let them know that they're not going to be, oh my God, damage soaking. Granted, they can, with armor and everything else, they'll be able to take some more hits, but they're not going to be like, the the pluses and minuses with this is that your magic users are going to be a little bit more hardy, but your fighters may be a little bit more squishy unless you get
How'd you balance that? How'd you balance the magic users? Well, let's take a look at it real quickly. How is it done in Vampire? Well, they have to spend blood. The Tremere have to spend blood. Okay, mage. Well, again, paradox is a thing, and if you really want to mess around, now you're in a fantasy world, though. Is paradox going to be the same? It's not for us to answer now, but it is something to consider. What is it, werewolf? How is magic done a werewolf? I don't remember.
I don't think there's really that
No,
much
I thought the spiral dancers or spectral dancers, whatever the hell they were called, had it. But
well, I mean, they can go into the Umbra, but I mean, really, the Umbra is more for getting from point A to point B.
Okay, well, fair enough. Again, like I don't want to dive too deeply into this, but one of the things, do you think combat would be faster?
Combat would be faster, but the other thing is that I also think it'd be more deadly, just from the simple fact of the yes, they're going to be hitting maybe a little bit harder, but the enemies are going to be hitting a little bit harder too. So whereas at level 1 where they go up and normally a party of 4 goes up against 7 goblins and they just slaughter them, they whereas they could go up against 3 goblins and the goblins may just dismantle it just because of the way it is.
Well, I mean, it encouraged more tactics. It would, again, knowing that you could incapacitate the enemy or knock them down as well. But then again, some of those enemy, they didn't happen to like 10 boxes. I get that. That's the point. We don't, without dive. Wow, I'm punching my microphone here. We don't want to dive too much into the weeds here, but that's the idea. Is like you change the tone of the game. Like maybe you love the idea of Pathfinder. You like the classes. You like the continent of Galarian. You like the idea of the spells that are given in that game, both healing and mystical, divine, and whatever the hell it's called, hermetic. But you just think that it would work better in another system. I'm an IP purist. I say don't do it. But with that in mind, any game can capture any feel. Savage Rifts is a thing and people like it and play it. I would tell you it's not Rifts. Sean Robertson would tell you the exact opposite. It is what it is. You play what you like at your table. I would also say we've done videos on this. None of them are recent, but we did videos on the fact that you don't need any other game than the first one that you pick up. If D&D is your game of choice, you can literally do everything in D&D. Look, there was Gamma World, right? You can tweak it to the point of making it what you want it to be. What we're talking about here, to get back on track here, is more specifically the natural system of what it is. So, Nerdy Ogre, how does the choice of system influence the tone and style of a campaign? Again, you can talk about Savage Rifts versus regular Rifts. Or what if you were to take, since you played Cyberpunk, you were to take After the or Beyond the Supernatural, Nightbane, whatever, and use the Cyberpunk rules? How would that change the game? Or vice versa. You were to take Cyberpunk and put it into the Palladium system.
Oh, honestly, I think putting Cyberpunk into the Palladium system would be much easier, because everything's there already. But taking Palladium and elements of Palladium and putting it into Cyberpunk, because what's going to happen is you're going to have this credible imbalance. It's like Palladium is meant to be down here, whereas Cyberpunk's meant to be up here, and if you, it's just going to,
What do you mean by down here and up here?
Like, okay, let's go with Palladium versus a D20 system, a D20 game. All right. In all the D20 games, you have 6 stats. We all know stats. but in Palladium you have 8. One of them is mental affinity, which is how you interact with other people, and another one is physical beauty, which is how good you look. Whereas, in a D20 system, you just have charisma,
Comeliness.
and that kind of encapsulate, and that encapsulates both of them. Well, how would you, you'd have to figure out how to put these two stats into one.
It's been done. Comeliness. They have charisma and comeliness in Dungeons and Dragons.
I've never heard of that one.
Comeliness, I think it started in Oriental Adventures, and then I know people who used it in 2nd edition still. Malachi, stop trying to be Mr. Correction. Well, actually, or Mr. Coney Marhockman. Like, it exists. You know it does. Damn. Was it Unearthed Arcana? I thought it started in Oriental Adventures. Either way, or Oriental Adventures had an interesting way of dealing with it in the society, but it exists in D&D, and it's in all editions of D&D. I've seen it used in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd edition. I don't know about 5th because I didn't play. So,
if he wants a backseat drive, he can get the link and come in here and talk with us too.
No, he's been actually this entire damn episode. It's getting annoying.
It's like, okay, I started playing D&D at 3rd edition, and so
I saw people use it there.
Well, I'm not saying it's not there. It's just it wasn't. I don't recall ever seeing it in.
No, it's not core. That was a house rule. It absolutely was. But what I'm saying is that D&D did have something that accommodated that. That's all I'm saying. And that you'd have to pull it from another resource, but it was there.
So, and it goes into also, like you said, house rules, because okay, you incorporate this. Well, you have to take this, and this is starting to overpower, so you have to create a house rule to balance it, and then you have to, it's like taking medication. Okay, you have medical problem. You take this medicine. Well, this particular medicine has this particular side effect. So now you have to take medicine to counteract that side effect. Well, the second medication has this side effect. So now you have to take medication to counteract, and it's just play the original damn system.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how it influences, like talking about how it influences the tone and style of a campaign.
But
and there's no such thing as AD&D 1.5. Stop making up stuff.
But no, okay. One system. Hold on, let me catch.
Okay. Well, I don't want to beat this. This isn't gone in the direction. Like, we're diving down too many rabbit holes here. We're talking generically here. How does choice of system influence tone and style of a campaign? You guys kind of hit a couple things on the head. When you're playing a D20 system that has 5% increments, that's going to be different than a dice pool system where you're counting things up. Now, there are good ways of doing dice pool systems. I don't have a problem with Shadowrun, but it definitely changes the tone. Shadowrun has a different damage system. Let's use an example of D&D versus Shadowrun. Both games can do cyberpunky stuff. Both games could do fantasy type stuff if you want to. Hell, Shadowrun has magic in it. But with Drain is a whole different mentality than Vancian system, which limits your numbers per day. In Shadowrun, you resist the damage, and every single person in the game has 10 hit points. But you resist the damage based on your armor, based on your body. And as you go down, that reduces, increased target numbers, or I think increases target numbers. I forget what it does. There are... So how is that going to change? Well, if you only have 10 hit points and you don't know what that guy over there can do, you might be a combat monster. Look at the Street Samurai, combat monster, but now let's put this in a fantasy setting. You've got swords, and instead of cybernetics, you're just balls to the wall, talented, skilled up. Well, that magic can still break through all that stuff, and your armor doesn't matter because there are spells that just bypass armor. So depending on the dice you roll, it's like Baron was saying about using the storyteller system. Well, was it the first wound I think is nothing, and the second one is like -1, and the third one is -2. Then it's like -3 and -5 and out, if I remember correctly, something like that. Like it gets worse and worse and worse. How many of those hits do you take before you're like, I'm out? Forbidden Lands, you literally lose attribute points. That's how you take the damage of the game. You have 4 attributes, and you take damage to those attributes. If any one of them gets to 0, you're broken. Not dead. You're broken. Boom. So the point, like it really could, now a game where you have 100 hit points and the strongest thing out there can do a D10, plus strength, D10 plus 5. Ooh, you cannot kill me. And we've talked about this in other videos as well. There's absolutely a different mentality. I know full well you have no chance of stabbing me. By the way, I don't like any game that is like this. No chance of you killing me at all. None. The most you can do is 15 points of damage. I have, let's do less than 100. I have 50 hit points. You're going to have to stab me at least 4 times and get very lucky on one of them in order for that to have any effect. That's lame. That really is lame. Like, there should always be the chance of death. A windling with a dagger in Earthdawn has a chance of killing a troll. Probably isn't going to happen, but has the chance thanks to exploding dice. And those D4s have a 25% chance of exploding. So there's always the possibility out there that makes you think twice, like, oh, this combat, I'll go into combat with Nerdy Ogre easily. Hits me a couple times. If it's going bad, I'll decide to retreat. Where in another game like Forbidden Lands, be like, I don't want to go around the corner, and anybody who's played my module knows what's about to come. I don't want to go around that corner and fight the Minotaur. Because if it clubs me one good time, I have an attribute value of 6 maximum, and it's rolling 14 dice. That could go really badly for me in a hurry. So, yeah, okay, there you go. I don't have much experience with Rollmaster. The closest I really have is MERP. But yeah, looking at charts all the time. I don't have a problem with charts. Maybe it's because I'm old school and I don't really mind it. You can look at charts all you want. Charts don't do anything to hurt the game for me, unless you can't find them. So, but yes, that is true. A narrative style, if you're taking it from a narrative style game, a storyteller game, a year 0 engine game, and all of a sudden you're trying to port the Ravens, what's it called? Raven's Purge, whatever it's called in Forbidden Lands, into Rollmaster, you're going to have a whole different feel and a whole different way of playing. So, Modiphius Star Trek played way different than, I'd say, but different than Fastest Star Trek. I mean, Bear got me to buy Prime Directive. I still haven't read it yet, but that looked really awesome. So, yeah, I don't think Modiphius Star Trek is good at all. I think it's horrible. I do, and I mean that. I said that earlier. I think that 2D20 system is great for Mutant Chronicles and Conan. It sucks for Dune and for Star Trek because the 2D20 system is supposed to build and build and build and be more action-packed, and those just aren't action-packed type games. And, yeah, it's super crunchy. I get it. Yeah, Fast had amazing lore, but it wasn't the best system out there. But hey, by the way, it's good to see you, Krantz. I didn't even recognize it was Krantz. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you here. So any final comment, because I feel like we're belaboring this at this point, any final comments that you guys have about how choice of system influences the tone and style of a campaign?
It just comes down to does the system incorporate rules of what you're going for? And I guess that's the question in and of itself. But it's like we were saying with Big Eyes Small Mouth. It's an anime game, so you're going to have that ethereal hammer that comes out of nowhere. And
does it have to be? See, I mean, no. And here's the thing about anime. And I hate this because I'm not even an anime guy, but here I am defending it. Anime is everything. There's literally nothing you can think of that hasn't been put in anime. My wife's Japanese, and she's like, Americans know about 2% of all of anime. It is literally everything. Business proposals are an anime. Self-defense forces advertises in anime. Game shows, anime. Cooking shows, anime. If you can think it, Dragon Ball Z, of course, the famous ones out here. My wife's really happy because Black Butler season 4 is coming out, and that's an anime she really likes. But everything is anime, so there's literally nothing you can't do. And even Mark McKinnon himself said that Bessem is like power levels 1 through 6, where what's it called? What's this other one called? absolute power is like powers level 1 through 10. So really, absolute power is more powerful than Besom. And I'm not trying to actually you on this. The point that I'm making is that the anime game really is everything. It doesn't have to be anime.
And I get that, but I mean, but okay, but see, here's the thing though. The ethereal hammer, where somebody's mad at the other, and they come out with that hammer and hit him on the head, and that's one of the anime tropes. But you wouldn't really see that in, say, a cyberpunk game. That wouldn't be good, because that's not
fair. That's fair. Now, using Earth Dawn, what I was talking about before is Earth Dawn doesn't start off like that, but you build into that, and it might not look like a Final Fantasy sword, but the amount of magic and power you put behind that after you hit a certain circle, especially if you're a warrior, sword master, or sky raider, oh my lord, the amount of damage that these guys were putting out, I was like, wait, what? Like, what circle are you? That's crazy. They turn into anime characters.
Right, yeah. And I mean, it's, and is one thing I noticed whenever I first got into the role playing hobby, is that you got these these fighters and the fighter types, and it's like, okay, well, this sword doesn't seem to be working, so I drop it and I pull out this sword. Well, okay, well, I rolled a natural one and I dropped that one. Okay, well, I'll just pull out this sword, and they're just pulling all. Where are you? At some point, you don't want to know where they're pulling all these swords from. How are you possibly carrying all these swords? And it did create more of an anime feel, more anime or even cartoon style feel of just pulling these swords out of virtually thin air, when you know damn well that no human being can carry that many swords. That many what they can't carry all those swords and the war hammers and the heavy crossbows and the light crossbows and whatever else they're carrying.
Why not? I have pockets. Come on, haven't you seen that Viva La Dirt League skit? Where's your horse pocket?
Well, I mean that's my example, perfect, right there. It's like, where are you storing? Where are you putting this up? Now, I'd come up with an idea of a dwarf who's big, luscious beard, but has it basically has magic runes weaved into it, where it's folded up, and his beard basically becomes a bag of holding, where he can just reach into that little pocket and pull out whatever, And it just one of those stupid 3 a.m. thoughts, but that doesn't really.
Right.
A more gritty that wouldn't fit into an Earth Dawn game, whereas
everything fits into an Earth Dawn game. All right, let's wrap this up here.
Okay.
Baron, any final comments that you want to make on how does choice of system influence the tone and style of a campaign, or do you think we beat this to death?
I think the horse has become glue, and we're going to start building some stuff here shortly.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I need to thank Law Dog right now. He gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Law Dog. So Michael Stronghold, Edgelord, Eric, I can't read that, my glasses, Desmet, Coco B, and Rara Rasputin. Oh, he's high. He's lurking in chat. All right. It's good to see you guys here. You now have access to the members only live streams, the full live streams, and about 3,000 extra videos that you may or may not care about above the public. So check those out. And if you're on Discord, you'll also have access to the members only Discord. So there you go. So anyway, yeah, this topic was interesting. I think we'll have to come back to this in a more specific sense at some point. I don't think that and it's my fault, being the host here. I don't think that we understood that this was more of a generic conversation. We kept diving down a lot of rabbit holes when it was supposed to be a generic concepts, but we touched on it now, and you know what? Doesn't mean we can't touch on it again in the future. Like I mentioned before, I have over 40 topics, and if we do this weekly, that's easily going to get us through the rest of this year of things we can talk about. Everything that gets as pedantic as like, how do you play a warrior in a game? Well, that's probably going to be different in Forbidden Lands than it is in D&D than it is in Traveler, right? So, we'll talk to things that are more amorphous to like, I don't know what they all are, but things are broader like this one, the ones that we've kind of talked about so far. We got more GM topics, more player topics, game specific topics. We got a bunch of things going on. So there will be a topic on and on and on. So I want to thank Baron one more time, but before we release you here, please tell us about you, and I'm going to get your links into the chat now, or into the description, because I realized I didn't do that. So tell us who you are, what you do, and why they should check you out. Start with Baron.
Well, if you're a GM and you're looking for some additional ideas, or maybe things that you haven't covered, you can definitely check out the video catalog on my page. If you haven't, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free. And for this stream, if you have not hit subscribe and like on this, you're wrong. Because if you've been in here and you haven't hit that yet, not only does it help the algorithm, but it makes Noro happy.
And that's what matters.
Noro happy, Max is happy because he doesn't have to buy Aerodynamic. Just saying.
This is gonna be a great weekend. Nerdy Ogre, final comments, and because I don't think you have a YouTube channel, do you?
I've got one. I've got a few videos. I need to do more videos.
Is it called Nerdy Ogre?
Like I said, if you go on a platform, look under Nerdy Ogre. You may find me. You may not. I've got a Rumble. I've got. I even have a TikTok. So, yeah. If you get on there, look under Nerdy Ogre. I might be there.
And for the folks in chat, I appreciate y'all being here, sitting through this. Like I said, we have topics throughout the year. If this wasn't your favorite topic, well, guess what? We'll have one coming up. If this gave you ideas at your table, things that you're like, I never thought about the idea of trying a different system for my setting. Or now, if you're completely convinced that that's the dumbest thing ever, well, I'm glad we had some sort of influence on you. But I'd say try it out before you poo-poo it like that. But I appreciate everybody being here. Hope to see you guys next time. I don't know what the topic for next week is. I'll figure that out soon. And then I'll get it out there on the YouTubes. As far as Legion of Myth goes, on Sunday, we're still covering Alien. Oh, wait, I don't even know. There's no point in me advertising this because it's not going to go to the public till a month after we streamed it. So we're probably still covering Alien, and who knows what Heathen Dog's doing. So there you go. All right. There you go. Look at that. Absolutely gave him ideas. Fear missing out because I'm not playing real Risk. There you go. Have a good night. Again, if you guys have not subscribed to Forge and Brush Gaming, you should. I wish he still streamed. Well, he does kind of stream his Pathfinder games, but it's somebody else streaming it, and it's on Twitch now. But hey, that's okay. I can harass somebody still. So he's running Pathfinder 2 game out there. But good channel. Check out his stuff. Lots of games, especially wargaming type stuff.